What's happening, everybody? Thank you for being here at All Access Live with Kevin Rankin. Before we get started, I would love it if you do me a favor. Go to this link below. Go to youtube.com/@accesskevin and subscribe to this channel. If you came here from any place other than YouTube, I would love it if you just stay here because I've got over 350 episodes. You can become a member, and members get exclusive access to some of the episodes that I've gone backstage over to people's homes. We've been in the recording studio. Those are special episodes. So if you just want the freebies, just subscribe to this and make sure you like and share this video. Also, if you play guitar and you're interested in lessons, repairs, or a great deal on guitars, go to 5starguitars.com. Everything you see there, you're going to get 15% off when you check out using the promo code of All Access Live. And if you're outside of Oregon, you'll find that there's no sales tax. So you're going to save a bunch of money and you're going to help out the show, the store that helps my show. So thank 5-Star. And again, now, we were talking drums today, so if you're a guitarist and you came here, you probably know that the rest of the guys that this guy plays with are also incredible aficionados. I've been listening to his his new, they call it a super group, Category7, and the guitars on this are shredding. So we'll probably talk a lot of drums, but I might even trickle in a little guitar chat too. So with no further ado, I've got Jason Bittner. How you doing, my friend? Oh yes. Oh, here, let me make you.
In honor of what your intro totally reminds me of. Your intro is Panama.
There's definitely an homage to Van Halen. I love the Alex cowbell, man. That's killer. Maybe should we re-record that intro and just have your cowbell? Yeah. Oh, and I see a Vader stick there. Is that right? Oh, okay. All right. I saw the blue stick tape, and it looked like the Vader logo.
ProMark
or Vader stick box. All right. Is that a Jason Bittner
not
model?
Anymore.
Oh, okay. Have you jumped to ProMark from a different company?
Actually, God bless ProMark. ProMark's been my longest standing endorsement. I've played ProMark sticks since I started listening to this guy right there. I mean, started playing ProMark in 1982. Like when I was actually in a ProMark ad in 1983, they did this promotion that was called America's Undiscovered Drummers or Unsigned Drummers, whatever kind of thing. And in the Rod Morgenstein issue in 1983, I'm in there too, with my bowl cut and glasses. Sorry, let me turn that off.
Your bowl cut.
My bowl cut and glasses and my preppy shirt from my 8th grade picture. Neil Peart, 747 model Jason Bittner uses. So just quite hysterical. And also in the same ad, because we used to laugh about this all the time when he used to work there, when it actually used to matter, Billy Amendola from Modern Drummer. He was in whatever band he played in 1982. It's just funny that we were in the same thing. So over the years, I tried Vic, I tried Vader and different stick companies, throughout the 90s and stuff. But I came back to ProMark probably right before I joined Shadows Fall, I think. So probably maybe 1999, 2000, I started playing them again. So, when I was time to start going after endorsements, it only made sense. And this is actually the only one. This is the only company since when I really made a name for myself that I'm still with. So that's
right on, man. Is it the 747?
No, I actually used to have a signature stick. I had my signature stick was just called the 5BX, and all it was just a 5B, which that's what this is, 5B nylon tip, but it used to have an extra 16th on the end because they couldn't just put my name on the 5B. And I'm like, well, I like the 5B. They're like, well, yeah, but we just can't put your name on that one. I'm like, all right. So we tried different things. I made it a little thicker, and that just wanted to put the stick tape on. It was too heavy. So, but a number of years ago, maybe I think it actually lasted after the pandemic. No, maybe it was pre-pandemic. Maybe 2019, 2020, they cut everybody's. They cut me, Chris Adler, Joey Jordison, most of the. I mean, put it this way: if you weren't Simon Phillips, Neil, Phil Collins, the signature models were going away. So
right,
no biggie. They still They
Nothing
still
worse to
make them
say.
for me if I want it, but it's like, I'm still used to the 5B, so whatever. As long as it's got my name and the band logo on it, we're good.
Right on. Yeah, good
Yep.
stuff, man. You mentioned Neil earlier, so we'll definitely have to give a nod here. I love the tapestry. That's when my best friend has the same, and it's a very rare, special,
Yes,
hard
it
to
is. You can
find
find them
tapestry
on
right
eBay,
there.
but
So
you're also going to spend at least $1,000 on one. I
yeah,
saw one
that's
on
it,
I
man.
saw
So
one
you've
on
had that,
Reverb like not too long ago, and it was only like $600, and I'm like, I mean, that's cheap for that thing. It's like,
right?
you might be able to sell this for, it might be in better condition than the one I have, and I'm like, all right, dude, you got one. That's not, that, that's two
That's
months of the
right, man.
electric
Yeah,
bill right there for.
that's it. Yeah, like
Yeah,
another snare drum, or maybe like a plane ticket to someplace with
yeah,
your wife,
yeah.
right? So, uh, yeah. So this week we were celebrating Neil's birthday posthumously, of course. So
Today, as a matter of fact,
I
but
saw that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, this will be
right,
going on
right,
in a
right, right.
couple of days, right? So, but I think Neil probably deserves to be celebrated for a month. You had some
I
pictures,
do.
right? There was a comment that I saw on Facebook with a mutual friend of ours, Dave Aberzees, and Dave had great pictures with Neil, and Neil had remarked, I think at one point, how much he loved Dave's and Matt Cameron's playing back in
Yep,
that era, right in their
yep.
early '90s. So it's nice to see because he was so quiet, right? He was very private about things, but it's nice that he had
It
honored
was.
reverence to up and coming drummers. And my son, rabid Neil fan, neck to toe in Neil tattoos and Rush tattoos, and never got to see him. My son's
Oh,
26, and I feel guilty, man, because I sent him to drum camp instead of R40. And I said, "Don't worry about it, man. They'll be back around. They come around every year." And then, of course, so I was a crappy
I
dad.
saw.
But
Hey, you got him into Rush, so you were not a crappy dad. That
you know what? I'm guilty because I was more Bonham than Peart, right? So, growing up and everybody was Neil, and I love Neil, of course, I respect him, but I played and I resonated more with like the guttural sort of primitive stuff of John. And my kid's like, show me Bonham's lyrics. I'm like, noted,
come on.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah. I mean, but yeah,
I for that for me because I was young. I mean, I'm 55, so I was born in 1970. I used to
same.
call for me it was the holy trinity of rock and roll drummers, and I have and eventually in my basement when I can get it all cleaned up and get room to set them all up because right now only the Neil kit is up. The Neil kit will be set up, the Stewart kit will be set up, and the Bonzo kit will be set up. There
Mm,
were three dudes:
yeah, buddy, that's it.
Copeland, Bonham,
Yeah,
and Neil Peart, and that's how it went for me. It
amen.
went it went Copeland first because I was a child of MTV. I was immersed into the Police. Those videos for all the videos for Ghost in the Machine when they're all just so pissed off at each other, when they all got the sunglasses on and he's beating the shit out of the Rudes, that
Yeah,
echoed with me so
right.
much because I was like, he's using the symbols that the dude in Iron Maiden uses in a pop
Oh, that's
band. What
awesome.
the fuck? So
Right.
I was just so
Yeah.
into Rudes when I was a kid and all that. But then I got into Bonzo, and Neil came last. But Neil also came when I was just getting into double bass. So I think that's more why he resonated the most because he had two kick drums too. And I was just
Right.
getting
Yeah.
into that. Like at that point, it was like, I could barely play Red Hot. That was like the challenge for me. But then as
Right.
soon
Yeah.
as it became the other holy trinity, which is there's two sections in my life. It's Copeland, Bonham, Peart, and then it's Lars Ulrich, Charlie Benante, and Dave Lombardo. That's
Nice.
what. Well, all right. There's a midsection too. Bill Ward, Clive Burr, and Nico. I can't leave them out because it does
Okay.
go from it is
Right.
those guys, then the heavy metal guys, then the thrash era. Because without Bill Ward
Yeah.
and Clive and Nico, there's no Charlie, Lars, and Dave. So and
Right.
let's throw Filthy Taylor in there for good mention too, because without Motorhead, there's none of those bands either.
Hell yeah. Well,
But
I'm
I
glad you
think
bring
I
up the
think one
generations,
more
man.
thing is I think that Neil Neil Stewart and John, I think, are all equally important in the history of drumming.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, I mean, you can hear influences from each of those three guys in so many
Yep.
drummers, right? And uh, and this is way before YouTube and even MTV generation, right? So when the visual part became influential for a lot of drummers, like of course you talked about watching those videos of Copeland, but prior to that, unless you saw a song remains the same, you weren't seeing much of Bonzo unless you got to see
True.
him live. And or some bootleg live concerts and that kind of thing.
Even Neil too,
But
because
Neil,
all really it was out was Exit Stage Left, and they don't show him
right,
as much as they should, let's say. But anyway,
right, yeah, they should have had dedicated camera just
absolutely.
on Neil for
And
those shows.
and we've
Um,
so many Rush fans have talked about this. You know, goddamn well that somewhere there is footage. There was a camera that was on him all goddamn night. Where's the footage?
yeah, yeah, it's like, well, okay, so let me go one step farther. I mean, you and I talked about this. You were at a show that I was just playing at, right,
Mm-hmm.
about a month ago, and then prior to that, just COVID, and before COVID, you saw a show that was fairly new with our guitarist, right? So our guitarist started playing just before that COVID show that you saw. He's the lead singer for Spoons in
Oh,
Canada
really?
and happens to be like our guitarist. Spoons was on Anthem Records. So when he first joins the band, we meet up in Toronto and he's showing me his phone. He's going through his phone. This is a very sweet, soft spoken guy, but he's in his phone. He's showing me pictures of stuff up in Toronto. And I go, wait, go back, go back. Is that Geddy Lee? He goes, oh, yeah, it's fine. And I go, no, don't just pass over that. And he said, oh, and there's Alex too. And I said, why do you have these guys like pictures with these dudes in your phone? He said, well, we're on Anthem Records together. And yeah, we used to hang out all the time. I'm like, don't just act like that's no big deal. And he said, I was never really into Rush. And I'm like, oh, come on, man. And so Anthem Records closed shop a couple years ago. And they called him up. They said, hey, man, come down and just get whatever you want off the walls. So he goes in and there's platinum, there's gold records and there's like everything Rush probably had a lot of that archival footage that you're talking about. And he just like, he got some things for a cousin that liked Rush. And I'm like, why do you tell me these things
Yeah.
after? Right? This is
Yeah.
just not fair, man. But man, I mean, it's a beautiful thing that so many people were affected in such a positive way. I mean, my kid is a different human because of Neil, not just his drumming, but his
So am
writing
I.
and the life
Happy
that he lived.
birthday, sir.
There we go, buddy. Here's happy birthday, Professor. Absolutely, man. So listen, people didn't come here to hear me yap. You, people that showed up here probably know a lot about Shadows Fall and Jason Bittner and influence that way. Your fans know about Flotsam and Jetsam and Overkill and this kind of stuff. But I, Category 7 was new to me. And since you and I started talking about having you come on the show, I can't stop listening to the record. I've dug through your play alongs, man, on YouTube, and it's a whole new level of Jason Bittner, man. I love that record so much and this band. So you've probably told the story a bunch of times, but tell me about you had a break too where Shadows Fall wasn't playing, right? So is that really where this sort of
A
formation
lot of
came
it is
from?
the basic the
All right.
basic formation, and I don't mind talking about this because and I really do appreciate the the kind words about the record because I really did. I did work my ass off on this one. I really did. And it wasn't planned out that way. But now that I go back and I listen to some of it, because now you know how it is after you record a record and then you start playing the stuff live, everything always morphs. Like fills change, and unless it's something that really needs to be the same thing, like the fill in Tom Sawyer is not going to change. But you know what I mean? Like there's
Right.
room
Yeah.
for
Right.
things to branch out. I noticed that there's a lot of fills that sometimes for me are placeholders, maybe sixes or boo 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 doo doo, just these typical things that I do that may be Jason Bittnerisms or whatever. But like I'm going back and learning these songs, learning the songs over again, because now we're getting ready for these Category 7 John Bush shows. Well, we have Category 7 shows first on the boat and stuff, but then we have these combo shows later at the end of the year. And I'm listening, and I'm going, didn't I just do that fill in the last fucking song? And so, and that's the stuff that starts to bother me. I'm like, damn it, I should have changed that. Like, why didn't I change that? And then there's probably sections where I did like stay up in the hotel, like thinking about it. And then, because there were a couple times where I said to Mike, I go, I want to change that fill because I do the same one in there. He's like, yeah, but, and a lot of times he would go, yeah, but dude, that works right there. Ah,
Yeah.
damn it. You're right. Okay. But
But then you change rearranging on the record so that you don't have those
oh
songs back
yeah,
to back, so you
it's
don't hear the
probably
same
something
thing.
that no one would even pay attention to, but it's like I
Right.
pay attention to it. But anyways, I was very lucky to hit like just a gigantic creative spurt for a few years of time. Um, and that's going back to being very, I don't want to, I don't want to be on, I don't want to be on this, and I'm not going to talk anything negative about, my old situations or anything like that. People leave bands for their own reasons. Let's just say I was stagnant in my old situation. I was not happy with where I was in a business sense with Overkill, and thought I was basically giving more of myself than I was getting in return. And after almost
Sure.
8 years, I had pretty much had enough of that. And when I knew that there wasn't even any negotiation aspect to anything, I'm like, okay, well, it's time to start thinking about myself. At that point,
Yeah.
Shadows Fall was getting back together. So the old gang's getting back together. Now, granted, with everybody, two guys having families and full-time jobs, one guy doing side bands and cover bands being Matt, but now he's in Hatebreed, so that's a whole different ball of wax. And John obviously
Right.
being in Anthrax. So before, all we had to worry about was John's schedule with Anthrax and Jason's schedule with Overkill. But now it's Matt's schedule with Hatebreed. So we are a scheduling fucking nightmare. We were lucky that we
Totally.
we did do a tour this year. We did a small 12-date run, and we finally got back out there. But another thing is we need to get our album finished before we can really do anything of. We've exhausted our 2 years of, hey, we're back, and here's the reunion show, and here's this album in its entirety, and now, okay, you guys want new shit, we get it. So that's where we're at with that. But at least the band was back together, and I knew it wasn't just going to be after we had gotten like a year into it. We knew that we weren't just going to do a reunion show and call it. We knew that we had some material. Let's try to write some songs. Trying wasn't even a word we need to use, because like once we got the second song done, it's just like the fucking floodgates open, and all of a sudden it's like, well, I guess we're going to do something, because we keep writing. We got another new one. Like I come home from practice and my wife be like, how'd it go today? I'm like, we just finished another new song. Like, another one? I'm like, yep. And I just think probably because the fire's there, and also because
Yeah.
when we're not in Shadows Fall, we are not in situations where we're not the band member owners and not in charge of what's going on. So once we're back in the Shadows Fall family, where we all have a 20% stake in it and we all have an equal voice on what happens, that's where the magic happens, let's say.
You know what? I mean, you bring that up, and I love talking business, right, with other musicians. And a lot of times it's really kind of a faux pas to talk about business arrangements and money and that
When
kind of
you
thing.
go
But
to a
if
job, when
Shadows
you
Fall,
start a job, do
yeah,
you ever go to a job? I don't care what job it is. It could be McDonald's. Do you ever go to a job and never get a raise after 8 years?
right. Yeah, you better leave long before that if you're not getting paid. Yeah, the
This is
raise.
not a
And
hypothetical
you,
situation. This is a true story.
right, right, yeah, and you know what you're going to be making too, right? When you go to said job. I mean, that's the thing.
And when you
That's a
spend
different thing
more
about
than
the
you
music.
come home with,
Yeah, that's where things were at. All right. Yeah. So, as far as business ownership goes, you're a Berkeley student, right? You studied the music biz. How much did they, well, you studied music. How much did they talk about the business
I
of music
actually
when you're at
took a
Berkeley?
music business course my first semester at Berkeley. And Kevin, I'm not lying to you. That book is in my bookcase now, and I know some probably there's definitely things that are outdated because there's nothing about streaming and all that
Streaming it.
shit that
Yeah.
happens. But I've consulted that book so many times, and the two sections that you're always reading up on is copyright and publishing. Don't give
Yeah.
it to anybody if you can avoid it.
Right.
If you're in a band, you deserve to make what you should make in that band.
Sure. So Shadows Fall reunites. Was there any discussion about changing things up, or did you guys always
Oh,
have
we've
that
always been
20%
like that.
arrangement? Okay.
We never wanted to be a band from day one. We never wanted to be a band that fought over whose fucking song it was, or I wrote this or I wrote that, because we always felt if we're all in the same room for 3 hours together crafting that, we all deserve to be a part of it. So that was
I
always
love
the way we saw it. So to category 7. So
because I
so Shadows Fall getting back together was the catalyst for me to go, okay, maybe my life can change. Maybe there's a something else for me down the road. So we get to the pandemic, and we went through a period of time when Overkill was actually on tour when the COVID first hit.
Hey guys, if you're here hanging with us, I just lost Jason for a bit. Let's see if he can pop back in.
Uh-oh.
I
Okay,
lost you for a
good. We're
sec
back.
there.
I was making sure my phone
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
die because I'm using the internet off that. All
Oh
right. So,
yeah,
anyways,
no worries.
I can rewind. So,
Yep,
Overkill was
COVID.
on tour. We got sent home. COVID. We missed the last 2 shows. The last show was the fucking hometown show in New Jersey. So, thousands of dollars lost on merch. Guarantee. Show was sold out. Whatever the hell time it was, maybe a year and a half later when we were able to reschedule and do the show again. It was like a year and a half, 2 years later. I think the poster says it like 674 days later, something like that.
Oh, yeah.
There were still the restrictions with the vaccination, and our guitar player who lives in Florida, who would need to fly to New Jersey, was, I'm not getting vaccinated. That's where I stand on this. So we got Phil Demmel to fill in on guitar.
Oh yeah.
And Phil had recently left Machine Head. So Phil, had dealt with situations himself. So after we got Phil to fill in, we had a tour coming up, and Dave still wasn't going to go do the tour. So Phil filled in. But boom. So through the
Yeah.
course of the tour, and Phil and I have been like, we've been like brothers for years. When I first met that guy 20 years ago, we were like fast friends. We toured together for 8 weeks in Europe with Machine Head and Shadows Fall together, 6 weeks rather. And we've just always had a great time together. And I always knew one day we would play together, like in a band situation. We've done
Yeah.
like jam nights and stuff at NAMM together, but like I knew one day we'd be in a situation where we played together. So we do this whole tour, and Phil knows. Actually, no, this happened after the Wellmont show. It was actually, the seeds were planted after the Wellmont show. That's right, because we only had the one show. We did the one show at the Wellmont, and then Phil was flying home early the next morning, but I was driving home. So my friend Corey calls me up, and he goes, and it's Corey Pierce, who was the drummer for God Forbid. And he goes, and he works at Dingbats. He's one of the bartenders there. He's like, you and Demo better come to Dingbats after the show. He's like, Mike Orlando's coming in too, because he's coming to your show. And I'm like, dude, I said, I barely drink anymore. And I said, I got to drive home tomorrow. Phil's got to fly home. And he's like, fuck you pussy. You come all the way down to Jersey and don't come see me? I'm like, all right. So Phil and I go over there, hook up with Mike, proceed to just get drunk. Pretty drunk in the amount of time that we were there, because we were only there for like an hour or an hour and 15 minutes. By the time we got there after the show, it was like 2:00, last call. So we're like, all right. So, toast, hey, you want to start a band? Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah. All right. So like 2 weeks later, Mike sends me and Phil a text. He was like, were we serious about like starting that band that we were talking about?
You
And
guys
I'm like,
remember that?
yeah. And I'm like, yeah, I'm total. I was coherent enough to remember that conversation. Yes, let's do it. So that's where the seeds were planted. The three of us were going to start writing some music. So now, fast forward, Phil comes out on the tour with us. So now I have Phil out on the whole tour, and he sees just my dismay with the situation and everything else. So we keep talking more and more. Meanwhile, Mike comes out in New York, and those two write a song like on a day off, and I'm like, what the? I'm like, all right, way to be productive.
Yeah.
Um, so so really, once we had a couple demos circulating, we're like, all right, well, we got to figure out who's going to round this band out. So we had a few people lined up for bass, and we had a few people that we had in our mind to sing. Luckily, the number one choice on both lists both said yes, so we didn't have to go to any other number two.
Hell yes.
It was very easy. We kind of uh, we started talking to John first, and we were like, it was between me and Phil because Mike didn't really know John, and Phil and I do. So it was which one of us were going to talk to John about, and I'm like, well, you know him better than I do, so you should talk to him about it. So I pawned it off on Phil, and we started talking to John, and John was like, well, send me some material. So we sent him a couple songs, and the first song that we sent him was the first thing that we wrote together, me, Phil, and Mike, and it literally was Racer X meets Pantera.
Oh yes.
There was not much room, and John said, he goes, I don't even know where I would even sing here.
Right. There's no room for vocals.
Yeah. Well, we didn't know who was going to be singing, so we just wrote for ourselves,
Yeah.
So
God, that combo is awesome, though. I love the idea of Racer X and Pantera.
Racer X and
Hell
Pantera. That means it
yes.
can be technical but balls heavy at the
Hell
same time.
yes. You bet.
Anyways, so we had a couple other songs that John's like, yeah, that's I can get that, and he started writing some lyrics and then sending us demos back. And in the meantime, I hit up Jack and I go, hey, we got this thing that's kind of brewing. It's me, Mike, and Phil. And I said, it's pretty much looking like Bush is going to say yes. And he just wrote back, I'm in.
Oh yeah.
So,
I mean, that's plug and play, right? There's
yeah.
no, I the John Bush edition with this band was such a surprise for me. When I heard this record, because I love his voice. I mean, like
His
metal.
choruses are amazing.
Yeah, just the hooks for days, man.
Yeah.
You've got like the record is full of hooks, and when the show notes are out here, if you guys haven't checked this out, if you're watching this and not listening, I'll have a link down below in the show notes with
of course it's behind. I'll show you the album cover, but it's behind the Rush bobbleheads right
oh
there.
yes, oh my
You
God,
can
that's
see
awesome.
it right like
There
behind
it
the
is,
speaker.
hidden.
That's where it is.
That's all right, man.
I have all these up in succession of like the way they came out over time.
I love it. Well, the Category 7 record is insane. I'll have show notes with the links to it, and I recommend that people like start to finish. If you're a drummer and you listen to In Stitches right off the bat, and then you've got to go out and go to YouTube and check out Jason's playthrough, because the drums are so freaking badass on that song. But then
we're going to be having all album playthroughs. Like I did like 5 camera shoots down in Mike's studio that we're going to start releasing, I think, next month.
That's killer, man.
Yeah.
I was really excited to see you playing that. Especially your feet. I mean, it's been a long time since I've got to do some really fun double bass work, and so I'm living vicariously. The Heavy Metal nickname I lost, right?
Which is amazing.
but I don't get to use that an awful lot when I'm playing with a flock of seagulls, right? But
Yeah.
oh my God, man, I love the double bass work on the record. As I alluded
Oh
to,
my God, you know what would be fucking hysterical?
yeah,
You should, if you play a Halloween gig, you should dress up. You should dress up like fucking Viv from the Young Ones. Remember
oh,
how his jacket used to say "very metal" and just put heavy metal on the back?
hell yes, man. Well, even like the other night, one of the backline kids,
Adrian Edmondson. I was trying to think of his last name. I couldn't think of his real name.
I would just love like one time, just throw some, double kick all the way through Space Age Love Song, But but I love the drumming. I love the double bass work.
Or you do like a Meshuggah thing.
Hell yes, man. You've got that all over in the record too, man. There's so much beautiful syncopated stuff. And I was just going to talk about the guitar too, man. The guitar on that record blows my mind. It's so wicked. And I could go through and just like identify and listen to segments where I'm just listening to guitar, and as a drummer,
Yeah.
that's a sacrilege, but I love the guitar work on the record too.
Yeah,
So go get category
those
7.
two push themselves. Like everybody push. This is the thing about this record and the way it came out. Everybody pushed each other musically to do more, as long as it wasn't stepping on someone else's toes. Because the way I
Yeah.
actually approached this record, I wasn't going to be playing as much drums on this record than I did. I really didn't plan it that way. I wanted to get away from that because that's what I've been doing my whole career. Is how can he play 210 again? Yeah, but Jesus Christ, it's getting harder every year. I'm not a spring chicken anymore. I can still
Does it?
do it though, and I still hit like a man. So that's the best part. I'm not an
Yeah.
extreme metal drummer that can play 300 BPMs, but I also don't tippy tap. So
Yeah.
I wanted to and also the creative spurt that I referred to is like going in and recording the first 5 Shadows Fall songs, because I play a lot of drums on those songs. And even I was going to approach the next 5 that I just finished like last month. They weren't supposed to be so drum-tastic because I did enough on the first 5. They ended up being more than the first 5. And I'm like, oh shit, I just did this myself again. And I'm like, well,
Yeah.
there's no way we're ever going to be playing this record in its entirety. If we get a tour in the next 5 years, it'll be a miracle. So,
Hell
but
yes.
anyways, creative spurt, I figured I might tone it down a notch with the Category 7 record. So my intent was to go in and be Vinnie Paul meets Alex Van Halen. That was where the mindset was. It just turned into Charlie Benante meets Dave Lombardo. That's just what happened. It wasn't on purpose, but there would be things where I would be playing like slower double bass, and Phil would be like, "Nah, play the double time." I'm like, I could have started there, but I didn't for a reason. Or it would be, do a drum fill here. I'm like, I just did a drum fill like 8 bars ago. Yeah, but John's not singing here. That was always the answer. John's not singing here. All right,
fill the space.
I love it. And there's always like every record I've recorded, there always seems to be like not easy songs, but like, you have those ones where you go, all right, these are going to be the ones that I do first. I'll just knock these out because they get me warmed up, and then I can concentrate on the harder ones, right? That always seems to fucking like reverse. And like the hard ones just end up being like that. And then the one you think's easy is the one you're throwing your sticks across the room. There was one song on this album that I was like, all right, this is going to be the easy one. This will be the one that I get to. I already knew that this would be the one that I would track first, like when we did the actual record and not here in the, just my own studio. So I'm tracking the song, and I get to the solo section, and Mike goes, wait a minute, I got something I want you to change. And I went, what? Now, mind you, I'm tracking the song first because I think it's easy. He goes, listen to what I do at the solo, at the end of my solo right here, Mr. My fingers that go 1 trillion miles an hour. Listen to what I'm doing at the solo right here, and do that with your feet before we go back to the last chorus. He changed the song from being easy to me having to play like what ends up being like 260 triplets. And I just went, I threw my sticks in the air, and he goes, what's the matter? I go, let's come back to this tomorrow when I actually can play what you want me to play. Let's move on to something else, because that's not happening right this very second.
So what do you do in a situation like that? Do you go home and just shed the hell out of the thing?
No,
and
I knew I could do what he wanted, but not fresh out of the gates, not warmed up, and not with it. Damn fucking bug flying around here. And not without me already being mentally prepared for it. That's what it was, because I'm a creature of habit too. Once I get in the studio, 99% of the time I know what I'm going to do. And then when the monkey wrench comes, it's like, oh, all right. And then if they go, well, let's just do it now. My gut instinct, and you usually know when you're going to play what's best. My gut instinct always goes, can we just table this right now? Let me take this back to the hotel tonight. Let me listen to it, and then let's knock this out tomorrow before we move on to the next song. That way, I know what I have to do. I go in there, even if I have to try it out, I go in there, it's done, pop it in, move on. And it always works a lot better
Yeah.
than me sitting there and then Chance getting upset for an hour trying to get like 1/8 note that you don't know where the placement is, where if you just sat in your hotel room and just tried it out for 45 minutes, you would have saved a lot more time and you'd already be done and you'd be up watching Netflix.
Right. I've heard you talk about that actually, that writing your parts out and using the acumen that you learned at Berkeley has really helped in that
Absolutely.
way rather than actually just doing the
With
memorization, but
sessions
actually charting it out.
and doing
Yeah.
work for other people, absolutely. I just did I just
Yeah.
did the new record for the band Heathen this past summer that's coming out sometime next year. And it was 13 songs. And these are all like 5-6 minute thrash songs with multiple parts, slamming double bass through a lot of them, and like long passages and also stuff where, hey, we're gonna change this right now. Like like literally after, when you're tracking it. So there was a lot of times where I literally have them here. Just one accent part. Like literally, it could be something like this that just I just remember to play this tag at
Oh
the
yeah.
end instead of getting to the end and
Yeah.
going, oh, what the hell is it again? And just if I think I know it, if I just go, nope, 1E, 2, a 3, done, got
Yeah.
it.
Nice.
you know,
You know, you talked about the Heathen record, man. Just before we went live or recorded this, you and I were chatting about some other projects that you had sort of been developing, and we talked about our mutual friend Danny Fenton. Is there anything out there recorded that people would be really surprised by that Jason Bittner's recorded? Any kind of like glossy pop
yes,
stuff, or
yes. And
yeah,
what our host is referring to is my absolute love for the era that I grew up in, which is the 80s. And I'm I remember MTV the day it came on, because luckily my grandmother worked for Schenectady Cable and I was right at her house getting babysat. And in the first 15 minutes I saw Video Killed the Radio Star, The Selector, Elvis Costello, and then fucking Iron Maiden, which blew my mind. I went, oh my god,
yes,
what's the monster band? What is this? And
right,
it just it I think that's what cemented my love for pop and new wave and metal at the same time. And that's when MTV was so awesome and you could see a diversity of music all
yeah,
the time.
yeah, man.
So now I forgot where I was going with that.
Well, you were going to tell me about a recording
So
that you
all
might
right,
have.
so anyways, so my love of 80s new wave, my two all-time favorite bands from that era are the Vapors and Split Ends.
Love it. Yeah.
Hands down. Those are my two favorite bands. I have multiple bootlegs of videos and CDs that I've found in Australia and New Zealand when I've gone there, of Split End stuff that I've taken home, even if I'm like, oh, I know I don't have the thing to play this on, but I'm still going to buy it just to have memorabilia. So when I first saw the Vapors, like I said, like we were talking about on Lost 80s Live 2019. But then they came around last summer. This was a year ago, and it literally happened like it was 2 days ago, because we went to see them on my wife's birthday last
Oh
year
yeah.
in
Happy
Woodstock.
belated to Gianna, by the way.
Thank you. I will tell her. So we happen to be looking. So this is a hysterical story. So my wife happens to be looking through the paper, and she's looking at the entertainment section of our paper, and she goes, and we were looking for my friend Brian, who's my best friend at home. He actually, have you ever heard the band Battlecross?
No.
They're a metal band. They were on Metal Blade. They were active
Oh.
until like 2020 or so. But anyways, he played in that band. But right now he plays in a very active wedding band.
Okay.
Makes good money,
Yeah.
2 to 3 gigs a week, puts the tux on, hates the gig, but makes good money, right?
Nice. Yeah.
So we're looking up, and the band's called The Accents, and they were playing at a club called Vapor, which is in Saratoga. So we were looking up Vapor in the paper, in the entertainment section, and my wife goes, this can't be right. And I went, what? And she goes, it says here the Vapors are playing in Woodstock on Sunday. I went, what? like literally up from my section. What do you mean? And she goes, it says the Vapors are like, so she says it again, like I'm deaf, it says the Vapors are playing in Woodstock on Sunday. I go, get the fuck out of here. So I get my phone. I look up this place, Colony. Sure as shit, the Vapors are playing there on
Yes.
September 8th last year. So I go, oh my God, we're going. This is 55 minutes from my house. So it turned out, I guess after Lost 80s Live last year, they did like another 5 shows or so on the way back uh, to New York.
Yeah.
So to leave out of New York City. So this was the last one. The guy who played in the opening band is my friend Bobby Weiss. He wasn't my friend then. He was just the guy in the opening band.
Okay.
But he was also the guy who was instrumental to getting the Vapors into that venue that night. He was the guy
Okay.
that booked the show for them. His band opened up, pop punk band. And we just hit it off because he was talking. And at some point he mentioned Anvil. And I was like, oh God. And there's like 40 people there. Okay. So like there's not many people there. I'm front row. I got my feet up. I'm sitting where Danny plays guitar, and I've got my feet on the fucking stage because it was impromptu. All right, so
Yeah, right.
everybody's just having fun. So he mentions Anvil. I groan because I was like, oh, whatever. And then we got in this conversation. So I was sort of like, I wasn't heckling him, but we were just joking. So
Yeah.
I went over, I introduced myself after we started talking. We knew we had mutual friends in the scene. He knew who I was. And I knew that his band played with my buddy Matt Byrne, who's the drummer from Hatebreed. He also plays, he has like a jazz rock kind of like a cover band that plays the same area, like, Poughkeepsie, Woodstock area. So I know Bobby's band and Matt's band have played together. So he's like, I knew you. I've seen you with Matt before. So Bob and I just hit it off really well. Also, huge Vapors fan, got him there. So we watched the show. We I still kick myself in the ass for not staying, but my wife had to work in the morning because she still had, she's retiring this week, but she still had her job.
Wow.
Got to be in early in the morning. We still got an hour drive home. So we stayed for the whole entire show. And I'm talking to Bobby afterwards. I said, I really want to meet the guys. He's like, they'll all come back down. And I'm like, I said, we got to go though. We got to drive home. And so then we swapped numbers. So the next day he calls me, he goes, dude, I was talking to all the guys about you, and Danny Fenton totally knows the bands that you're in
Oh,
and
yeah.
everything else. He said you should have stayed. And I was like, God damn it. I was so angry. I was so angry. And my wife still goes, I told you we should have stayed after that. Like,
Oh,
ah!
no.
So now this has begun a year of me and Danny talking on Facebook, blah, blah. I talk with Steve on Facebook. I talk with Bronca. So I knew when they were coming over for this one. And since then, too, the week before Lost 80s Live started, I did Bobby works at the Rock Academy in Woodstock, which is like a school of rock kind of thing. So I
Yeah.
did a week-long metal camp there, literally the week before we came to see you guys in New Haven.
Wow. Oh
Yep.
my God.
So that's where the affiliation came. So it's Bobby and mine's love of the Vapors, and I was like, dude, I said, a lot of these songs we could heavy up and just this would be a blast to do. And he's like, that would be awesome. So then we hit up Dan with the idea. He's like, absolutely, I would want to do it.
Love it.
So our idea is to do a kind of rock metal Vapors cover record.
Hell yes, man.
But back to the other part of the question of whether or not there would be something in my discography that people would not expect, and that would actually, yes, and it's right here.
Let's take a peek here. I'm gonna make
this right here, which is a coconut,
okay,
and a donut. It was a band called Coconut Donut, just a session thing that a friend of mine wrote all the songs, and literally, if you put that record on, you would not know that it's me playing drums. It's literally like what I call it. It's all my favorite bands that I grew up on as a kid, like the Band, the Doobies. I mean, it's got 70s rock. I guess we actually could say it's definitely got a yacht rock vibe to it. No,
right on.
for sure. No double bass.
Wow.
I recorded it with a 4-piece kit, just one cymbal, like Zildjian Effects, like, you know, Holy Crash, so it wasn't like a China, but, you know, and a ride cymbal.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's killer. God, you know, um, you mentioned the ride cymbal too. When you came out to the New Haven show, and I wish that I had known that you were going to be there because it would have been fun
Yeah,
to like to chat
absolutely.
drums. All of my buddies, you know, I've been posting pictures and videos like that entire tour, the back line and the different perspectives. And that venue was so gorgeous, right? It's the Yale University
Yeah.
football stadium, which was virtually empty at that show.
Yeah,
First day
but
of the
that
tour,
weather
man. It was,
sucked. I mean,
oh yeah, it was horrible.
ah,
Yeah. But you know what? It didn't matter. But I was like, I was so psyched because that beginning of that tour, all of those people in those bands were like family, right? So we had 10 freaking bands touring together for like 5, 6 weeks. And there wasn't one bit of
that's
drama,
great.
not one, man. I mean, our dear friend Michael, right, really had some tragedy, and you know, we're really pulling for that dude to be making a recovery. And but the rest of the tour, it's crazy to have 10 bands with what 4 to 8 people in some of
Yeah.
those bands, and have everybody get on
You know, it's funny that we
crazy.
talk
And
about this, and I'll say this on the air because we were talking about it earlier, you know, branching out. I mean, I literally, you know, hey, if you know someone, but you know what you remember? All right, so, and I'm not wrong to think this. On Lost 80s Live 2019, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't like the first 4 acts, like Annabella Lewin, and like the other 3 acts, wasn't there just one band for everybody? One dude playing drums for like
yep.
4. Can that be me next year, please? Like, I even want to send, like, what's his, Rob Juarez, right? Is that his last name? The dude who heads
Yep.
it. I'm like, I want to send him a LinkedIn message. I'm like, uh, yeah, I know you play Octopad, but you know, I'm willing to come out next summer, man. You know,
Brother, I would love to have you on the
blast.
tour, man. It'd be
I'll go
so
play Send
fun.
Me an
And
Angel
you know
in
what?
real life. I got the Simmons.
Oh, yes. I love it, man. The fact that you have reverence for all those bands is so
Love it.
badass to me. I
Love it.
love it. You okay, so you know, we talk about getting along with everybody, and we also talked about some of the tragic stuff that goes on. You were talking about crazy shit that you've gone through. You had a trifecta of crazy drama. One of those things, I mean, you talked about Damage Plan, right? And dear, you know, Vinny, man, and Dime, rest in peace, both
Yeah.
of those guys, you know, for
And I just
for
saw
their history.
Pantera Tuesday night. So
I know
yeah,
you did. You were
yeah,
hanging with Charlie,
yeah.
man, and Benante too, unbelievable dude. I met him a couple of times at NAMM. Love his drumming. I'm so psyched that he's killing it on that
Yeah.
Pantera gig. It made
Yep.
sense,
Absolutely.
right? It really did make
Absolutely.
sense. Him and Zach were the only guys that made sense to me
Yep.
for that band to
Yep.
reunite. Tell me about that, man. Tell me about because Charlie treated you right at that show, man.
Charlie always treats me right, thankfully. Charlie is
Yeah.
you know, I've called Charlie my older brother from another mother for years. We have a lot of similarities. Both grew up raised by strong Italian women, you know, just a lot of the same likes and stuff like that. He's been like the king of thrash drumming for me since 1987 when I saw him the first time on the Among the Living tour. And
Wow.
just over the years, I met him a couple times when, you know, like I was a nobody. You know, over the course of years, the first time I met Charlie actually was in 1990 at the uh, no 91 Clash of the Titans tour in Madison Square Garden. Because
Wow.
at that time I had just become friends with Dave Lombardo like a year prior. And on Clash of the Titans tour, he gave me a laminate and he's like, any show you can come to, come out. So I went to 4 shows on that tour, and one of them was fucking Madison Square Garden, which is just, I can't tell you how amazing that show was. It's been documented. There's been podcasts and talks about it. I was actually on MTV that night because Ricky Rackman goes walking by me interviewing Megadeth, and me and my buddy are standing right there right there, plain as day. Somewhere I have the video upstairs in my house too. I was actually telling Ricky about it on the boat a couple of years ago. He was like, "Get the fuck out of here!" I go, "Yeah, dude, you go walking right by me." It's hysterical. So, um, I met him at the first time at the Bond Street Cafe, which is where the after show party was, and just you know walked up to him, and obviously it's something like that. If you're in the room, you just couldn't go in there. You're a guest of someone. I'm just not some schmuck walking in off the street. So he was just
Yeah.
standing against the wall by himself, and I just nervously walked over and said hello. Hey, Dave's friend. I was hanging with him, but you're also one of my favorite drummers. Blah blah. And just gave him the whole I love you fucking whole thing, and that was it. That was the first time I met him. And then 5 years later, Slayer was playing at the Roseland in New York, and I went down there to see the show, and it was actually the Divine Intervention tour. So it was when Paul Bostaff had replaced Dave Lombardo, and this was the first tour
Right.
with Bostaff playing in Slayer. So it was a big deal. So somewhere, and it was not just Slayer. This is how important this show was. It was Slayer, Biohazard, Machine Head. It was a giant show at the Roseland, and I met Chuck from Death that night too. God rest his soul. So I'm somewhere for one of the opening bands, and my girlfriend at the time comes over to me. And she goes, "Do you know that Scott and Charlie are at the bar?" And I went, "What?"
Oh, shit.
I totally ghosted her for the rest of the night, and I'm like a beacon. Hi, Charlie. Literally, like right up his ass. Well, I mean, I wasn't that bad. I was right to the bar. Hey, can I buy you a drink? I met you years ago at Slayer, after Clash of the Titans. So what I still find funny to this day that we laugh about is he could have just fucking shooed me away after I bought him a beer. Get out of here, dude. You're driving me nuts. But he sat there with me the whole fucking show. The whole show. I didn't go. I went up once for Raining Blood because as soon as I heard da-da-da-da-da, I'll be right back.
Yeah.
One song in the pit, came back, and he didn't shoo me away the whole night. We sat there and we watched Bostaff play with Slayer that first time in New York, and that may have solidified something with him, but whatever. Then the internet came. I found his, he had his email. Metal Maniacs used to have a thing where they'd put everybody's email in there, like, contact your favorite rock stars. And I'm like, he's never going to answer this. And he did. And he remembered who I was because I detailed it. The first time was at, Clash of the Titans. The second time was, after the Slayer show, he knew me as the Peisty Rude guy.
Oh,
because we talked about our affinity for the Rudes. So that's where he knew who I was. So then once I became, Jason Bittner in Shadows Fall, I ran into him at NAMM in 2000. I was like, this is the band I'm in. So then we became friends, and then I'd see him at the trade shows. Then it was, we changed numbers, blah, 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 blah. 2005, hey, you want to be in my band for a couple of days? I'm having a kid. Yes, I've been waiting for this call for a million years. And for a 6-year period from 2005 to, 2006. Was it 5? No, 6. Top of 2006. From 2006 to 2012, I played over 65 Anthrax shows.
Wow.
Filling in for him. For all life moments, like birth of Mia, death of his mom, the start of the dissolution of his, or the unraveling of his first marriage. So I'm very honored that I was called to do that for him. So
do you think the way
and now I got to do it all again? But
buddy,
a different era of Charlie Benante.
Hell yes, man. Thinking about the way that he treated you, I had kind of a similar sort of experience with Aberzees. That's how Dave and I knew each other. I was a fanboy right at the beginning of his career as things took off with Pearl Jam.
Yeah.
But it did change the way that I feel and act and treat people that come out to shows. I realized that you could be at that level and still be humble and accepting and welcoming.
Absolutely can. And you never know who's going to be at that show. And you never know who you think that guy backstage. Who's that dude backstage with a sticky pass on? He's a nobody. No, he's not. He may be a 2-time Grammy nominated drummer who's standing around in the fucking back like me.
Right.
That's happened to me at shows before. Dude, you got to get out of here. I'm like, first of all, First of all, local crew guy.
Yeah,
Let me tell you something. But you don't act like that. But you just my point is like you never know who's going to be backstage. It might be someone who's in the business too, because you know as well as I do, this is very small, and we all talk.
hell yeah, man,
We all talk.
absolutely.
If you're an asshole, everybody's going to know you're an asshole. You're going
That's
to
it.
have that reputation.
That's it.
And I have met, aside from the ones that are dead, Bonzo, Ginger Baker, Keith Moon, Buddy, I've pretty much met all of my heroes except for Alex Van Halen.
Wow.
All of them. Like all of them.
Yeah.
And you know what? 90% of them were awesome. There's
Amazing.
only a
Yeah.
small portion that weren't so awesome. But one of the guys who I thought was going to be one of the most awesome dudes in the world was the biggest douchebag to me, not once, but twice. So,
Brother.
yeah.
You know what? I'm going to tease it with saying you're the greatest storyteller I think I've had on the show. You certainly, but Mangini, another one, maybe Rod Morgenstein. But like, I promised you that.
Let me tell you a great story about Rob
Hold
Morgenstein.
on a sec. Here's what we have to do. I have to lead with this because I know you have to jump in a minute, and I promised you I was going to kill it at an hour. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to leak and tease this. Jason's going to tell the story, but he's going to tell it in a part two that we're going to do. He's going to tell me off camera so I can. And folks, subscribe to this
That
channel
works.
right now because I'm going to take us off camera, and you can hear more Jason Bittner in a second segment if you're willing to do it. And
I absolutely am.
because you have so many amazing stories, bro. Let me ask you before we do cut it on this one. I want to ask you my favorite thing to ask every musician for sure. If you look back at the end of Jason Bittner time, at the end of your career, you're looking back over your life. What is it that you want your legacy to be? What do you want to be remembered for?
I think that I'm, as much as I tried to escape this for part of my career, and I don't know why, because I spent most of my life working on it. I'd like to be known as he was a damn good double bass player.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean that's a given.
He was solid, and he delivered every fucking night that he got on stage. And that's what I got from that guy right there.
Love it.
Do the same thing every night after night, and do it the same way. Don't be 10 BPMs faster than last night. Don't be 10 BPM slower. Don't play the fills different. Just do the same thing. Make your band rely on you and know that you got their back.
I love it. That's good stuff. When we do part two, if I come back to that question, let's hope it's the same answer. Listen. I know you got to jump, and I love the fact that you're effusive and your stories are beautiful. Please thank Jonna for sharing your time with me tonight. And
Absolutely will.
again, happy belated birthday. There's a bunch I do want to catch up with you on part two, but
I
hopefully
do too.
we could do it in person. I'm over in your neck of the woods a bunch in the next 2 months, man. We're playing like 6 gigs in your area. So,
Really?
well, there's upstate gigs, we got New York City gigs, we got yeah, Connecticut,
Damn it.
and yeah. So
Are they on the website?
on my website, kevinrankin.com.
I'll go look.
Yeah,
I'll go check them
yeah.
out. Yeah, absolutely. That'd be great.
And folks, thank you for being here. Again, here's the link. Go to youtube.com/@accesskevin. I'll put links in the show notes to the Category 7 record and jasonbittner.com. And dude, you and I are going to hang soon. I really appreciate you making this happen.
Absolutely.
Thank you, buddy.